The silent vanguard. No one saw them coming until it was almost too late. The day the Vesperi Collective entered our solar system, humanity was still nursing its wounds. 50 years earlier, the Cascade, a chain reaction of ecological and technological disasters, had driven us underground, beneath the cracked surface of a planet we'd nearly destroyed. The skies above were painted permanently gray, our once blue oceans now murky and hostile. To any observer from beyond our atmosphere, Earth was a failed experiment, a world where an ambitious species had reached too far and had fallen hard. We were supposed to be easy prey. The first Vesperi scout ships slipped past Neptune's orbit without triggering our outer sensor grid. Their cloaking technology was unlike anything we'd encountered, bending light and energy signatures in ways our scientists had only theorized. But they weren't as stealthy as they believed. Deep beneath the Marianas Trench, in a facility we called the Abyss, something ancient stirred. Commander Elena Reyes was finishing her inspection tour when the proximity alert sounded. She'd spent 15 years of her life in this underwater cathedral of technology, overseeing a project the public didn't know existed. The handful of world governments that had survived the Cascade had pooled their remaining resources not into rebuilding cities or reclaiming the surface, but into a different kind of insurance policy. Unidentified objects, sir, Lieutenant Kwan reported, his fingers dancing across holographic displays. Multiple signatures, definitely not asteroids. Elena's heart quickened. They had run thousands of simulations, but now reality had arrived. How many? 27 distinct vessels. Configuration unknown. They're decelerating near Mars orbit. Sound general quarters. Activate Sentinel protocol. Across the globe, in deep bunkers and hidden mountain fortresses, identical alerts triggered. From Shanghai to Buenos Aires, from the Saharan Vault to the Antarctic Command, humanity's hidden guardians received the same message. We are not alone, and they are not here for diplomacy. Aboard the Vesperi command vessel Eternal Vigilance, High Commander Terrace studied the holographic representation of Earth with disappointment. His elongated fingers, tipped with translucent claws that caught the light, manipulated the image, zooming in on sprawling ruins and dead forests. Is this truly the planet that produced such interesting transmissions? He asked, his voice melodic but tinged with disdain. The intelligence division claimed these beings had potential. Science Director Mavis adjusted her ocular implants, focusing on different wavelengths. They did reach a remarkable technological threshold before their collapse, Commander. Their communication networks, their understanding of quantum mechanics, they were perhaps a century away from achieving interstellar capabilities. And then they broke themselves, Terrace concluded. Typical of young species, they build tools they don't understand and unleash forces they cannot control. He dismissed the hologram with a flick of his wrist. Prepare the harvester units. This world still has valuable resources, even if its dominant species failed to evolve past self-destruction. Should we not at least attempt contact? Mavis suggested, her luminescent skin rippling with concern. Protocol dictates. Protocol applies to civilizations, Director. This is a planetary reclamation, not a first contact. These humans have regressed to primitive survival states. Their most advanced technologies now are likely little more than crude fission and basic computing. How wrong he was. 3 kilometers beneath the surface of what had once been called Death Valley, Dr. Imani Okoro watched as the final activation sequences for Prometheus Array completed. 20 years of quantum engineering was about to be tested. The facility hummed with energy as supercooled systems maintained the delicate quantum entanglement of particles that made the impossible possible. Alignment at 98%, Dr. Okoro announced to the assembled military and scientific leadership. Quantum coherence stable. General Santos nodded grimly. You're certain they won't detect the energy signature? Okoro smiled thinly. The beauty of the system is that it doesn't generate an energy signature, at least not one that propagates through normal spacetime. The Prometheus doesn't emit energy, It redistributes it from one state of probability to another. A younger officer frowned. In English, Doctor, we're not firing a weapon. We're changing the reality of what is possible where we choose to aim. Across the solar system, the Vesperi deployed their first wave of harvesters, sleek, autonomous machines designed to strip mine a planet's resources with brutal efficiency. They had used them on a dozen worlds before, leaving behind lifeless husks ready for Vesperi colonization. The harvester units spread out, targeting Earth's remaining mineral deposits, focusing particularly on rare earth elements that had become scattered and diffuse after decades of human mining. The first harvester descended toward the Ural Mountains, its sensors detecting rich veins of palladium and rhodium. As it crossed the mesosphere, something changed. The machine's quantum processors detected a fluctuation in local spacetime, as if reality itself was becoming less certain, probabilities shifting like sand underfoot. Then it ceased to exist. Not with an explosion or disintegration, but with a whisper. One moment the harvester was there. The next it occupied a probability state with zero amplitude. It hadn't been destroyed. It had been edited out of existence. Aboard the Eternal Vigilance, alarms blared. Harvester Unit 7 has gone offline, reported the operations officer, confusion evident in her voice. No distress signal, no debris signature. It's simply gone. Before Terrace could respond, 5 more harvesters vanished from their displays. Scan for weapons signatures, he ordered, all trace of boredom gone. Deploy defensive screens and recall the remaining harvesters. No weapons detected, Commander, came the bewildered reply. There's no radiation, no projectiles, no energy beams, nothing. Science Director Mavis stared at her readings in disbelief. This is impossible. The probability curves they're being manipulated. These humans have developed probability weapons. On Earth, in underground command centers across the globe, cheers erupted as the Prometheus array proved its worth. The quantum probability weapon, developed in desperate secrecy after the Cascade, had exceeded expectations. But Alina Reyes knew better than to celebrate yet. This was only the first move in a game humanity couldn't afford to lose. Initiate Phase 2, she ordered. Deploy the Sentinels. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in caverns hollowed out decades ago during humanity's brief golden age of space exploration, massive bay doors slid open. From darkness emerged 12 sleek vessels, obsidian black and angular, absorbing rather than reflecting light. Each was barely 200 meters long, minuscule compared to the Vesperi ships, but they carried humanity's most advanced technology. The Sentinel-class vessels accelerated silently toward Earth orbit, powered by zero-point energy drives that left no exhaust trail, no radiation signature. Their hulls, composed of metamaterials engineered at the molecular level, bent light around them, rendering them nearly invisible to conventional sensors. High Commander Terrace ordered his fleet into defensive formation, still scanning desperately for the source of the attack that had eliminated half his harvester units. The Vesperi Collective had conquered 17 star systems through superior technology and overwhelming force. Never had they encountered resistance like this from a supposedly primitive world. Commander, his tactical officer called out, voice strained, we're detecting small objects approaching from the planet's moon. Missiles. Uncertain. Their profiles are shifting. Our sensors can't maintain a lock. Terrace felt the first stirrings of genuine concern. Deploy interceptors. Now. The Vesperi launched their sleek, dart-like interceptor craft, atmospheric fighters adapted for space combat. Hundreds of them poured from the larger vessels, their pilots confident in their superior maneuverability and firepower. The first squadron approached the incoming Earth vessels, weapons charge. The lead pilot, elite gunner Varric, targeted the nearest human ship and fired a salvo of plasma bolts. The bolts passed harmlessly through the Earth vessel, which seemed to shimmer and distort around the impacts. Command, targets appear to be using some form of holographic decoy technology, Varric reported, adjusting sensors to. Those were his last words. His interceptor disintegrated as a particle beam sliced through its hull, the exotic particles ignoring the craft's energy shields as if they weren't there. Similar beams lashed out from the other Earth vessels, cutting through the Vesperi interceptor screen with surgical precision. Aboard the Eternal Vigilance, Terrace watched in mounting horror as his interceptor squadrons were decimated within minutes. Impossible, he whispered. These humans were supposed to be primitive, broken. Science Director Mavis stared at her readings, her normal professional detachment crumbling. Commander, I'm detecting quantum signatures that shouldn't exist. The mathematics behind what they're doing, it's beyond theoretical. It's like they've developed a completely different branch of physics. The 12 Sentinel vessels formed up in perfect geometric alignment, their positions calculated to microscopic precision. Energy began to flow between them, creating a lattice of quantum entanglement. Commander Elena Reyes, now aboard the lead Sentinel, the Thermopyle, gave the final order. Initiate Aegis Protocol. The energy lattice between the Sentinels stabilized, then expanded outward in a perfect sphere that engulfed the entire Vesperi fleet. Within that sphere, the laws of physics subtly changed. Particle decay rates accelerated. Quantum tunneling probabilities increased 1,000-fold. The very fabric of reality became hostile to Vesperi technology. Systems failed across the alien fleet. Weapons went offline. Engines sputtered and died. Communications dissolved into static. Then, into this chaos, Commander Reyes broadcast a single message to the crippled Vesperi ships. This is Earth Defense Command to invading forces. You came to our world believing us weak, believing us broken. What you fail to understand is that struggle doesn't always break a species. Sometimes it forces evolution. Sometimes it creates strength that would never have existed otherwise. You have 1 hour to retreat beyond the orbit of Neptune. After that, we will destroy every ship in your fleet. This is your only warning. For several long minutes, there was no response from the Vesperi. Then, slowly, their massive ships began to turn, limping away on backup power systems, retreating from the world they had dismissed as primitive. As they departed, High Commander Terrace stared at the blue-gray planet below, suddenly understanding that the galaxy had changed forever. The humans hadn't broken themselves after all. They had transformed. Stars will remember. The Vesperi Collective had never suffered defeat in 3 centuries of expansion. Their technological superiority, their disciplined fleet maneuvers, and their understanding of quantum mechanics had made them uncontested in 11 star systems. Until Earth. The humiliation of their initial defeat spread through the collective like poison. High Commander Terrace had been publicly stripped of rank and exiled to an outer colony. The Science Directorate had been disbanded and reformed under emergency protocols. And most significantly, the Cerulean Fleet, the Collective's premier military force, had been recalled from its campaign against the Orden Confederacy. Admiral Casca stood on the command deck of the Indomitable Purpose, the flagship of the Cerulean Fleet and the most powerful warship in known space. At nearly 5 kilometers in length, it dwarfed anything humans had ever constructed. Its hull gleamed with the distinctive blue-silver alloy that gave the fleet its name, a metal with properties that allowed it to partially exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making it virtually impervious to conventional weapons. Report on the human defensive capabilities, Casca ordered, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of intense concentration among her species. Strategic Analyst Foreign approached, his movements precise and efficient. The data from the initial engagement is limited due to our fleet's systems failures. Admiral. However, we analyze what we could salvage. The humans appear to have developed quantum probability manipulation technology centuries beyond what should be possible for their civilization stage. Explain. Rather than using energy to destroy targets, they alter quantum probability states to either remove objects from reality or change the fundamental laws of physics within limited domains. Our scientists still don't understand how they've achieved this. Admiral Casca's secondary arms twitched, a sign of irritation. No species progresses from atmospheric flight to quantum probability manipulation in less than a millennium. It's evolutionarily impossible. There's something else, Admiral, Vorin continued. Our long-range scans indicate unusual activity beneath the human moon's surface. They appear to be constructing something massive. On Earth, humanity prepared for the war they knew was coming. The Vesperi retreat had bought them time, but no one harbored illusions that it was anything more than temporary. The alien invaders would return, and next time they would come with their full might. In the council chambers of Earth Defense Command, representatives from the planet's surviving nations gathered. The surface world remained largely uninhabitable, with 90% of humanity living in vast underground arcologies or deep-sea habitats. But their underground existence had forced technological evolution at an unprecedented rate. The Prometheus array performed beyond expectations, Dr. Imani Okoro reported, but it has limitations. The energy requirements for quantum probability manipulation increase exponentially with the size and number of targets. Against a larger fleet, we won't be able to simply erase their ships from existence. Commander Elena Reyes nodded grimly. Then we need more conventional options as well. What's the status of Project Lazarus? Lieutenant General Ryuji Tanaka, representing the Pan-Asian Coalition, activated a holographic display showing the far side of the moon. Construction is proceeding ahead of schedule. The first 3 Dreadnought-class vessels will be operational within 2 weeks. The remaining 7 are at various stages of completion. The hologram showed massive ships taking shape in artificial caverns beneath the lunar surface, each one over a kilometer long, with angular, blade-like profiles. Unlike the smaller Sentinel-class vessels, which relied on stealth and quantum manipulation, the dreadnoughts were designed for direct confrontation. They represented humanity's answer to the overwhelming firepower they expected from the returning Vesperi. And the Nexus drive? Rise asked. Successfully tested last week, replied Dr. Sofia Mendez, Chief of Propulsion Technologies. The principles behind it are similar to the Prometheus array, but instead of manipulating object probability, it manipulates space-time probability. In essence, it creates a bubble where the probability of 2 points in space being adjacent temporarily approaches 100%. In English, Doctor, it allows near-instantaneous travel between any 2 points in the solar system. No acceleration, no deceleration. The ships simply step from one location to another. This was humanity's greatest advantage, and its greatest secret. While the Vesperi and other spacefaring species relied on conventional physics for propulsion, humans had taken a different path. Forced by the cascade to think beyond traditional boundaries, Earth's scientists had explored realms of physics that other civilizations had overlooked. 3 weeks later, long-range sensors detected what everyone had been dreading: a massive Vesperi fleet entering the outer solar system. Preliminary scans suggested over 200 vessels, led by a ship of unprecedented size. The time had come. Throughout Earth's underground cities, citizens gathered around holographic displays. There was no panic, no hysteria, just a grim determination. The decades after the cascade had culled humanity's numbers, but hardened those who remained. They had survived the near death of their planet. They would survive this. Commander Reyes stood on the bridge of the Thermopylae, which now orbited alongside 10 newly commissioned Dreadnought-class vessels. The largest, named Defiance, served as the fleet's flagship. Its commander, Admiral Joaquin Alvarez, addressed the assembled captains through a secure quantum channel that not even the Vesperi could detect. "We face an enemy that believes itself superior," Alvarez began, his voice steady. "They come with overwhelming force, expecting us to be awed by their numbers and firepower, but they still don't understand what they're facing. Humanity didn't just survive the cascade. We were forged by it. We learned that our greatest strength isn't our technology, but our adaptability, our refusal to accept defeat. Today, we show the galaxy that Earth is not a broken world. It is the cradle of a species that will never surrender. As the Vesperi fleet approached Mars orbit, Admiral Casca prepared her forces for what she expected to be a challenging but ultimately successful campaign. The Cerulean fleet had never failed to subjugate a target world. "Deploy into attack formation Helix 7, she ordered. "Advance screening vessels to establish perimeter. All weapon systems to maximum readiness." The massive Vesperi armada spread out in a complex three-dimensional pattern designed to maximize firing coverage while minimizing vulnerabilities. Hundreds of smaller craft swarmed ahead, their sensors probing for any sign of the human defenses that had so effectively neutralized the previous expedition. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported with confusion, "we're detecting no defensive positions, no weapon platforms. The human vessels appear to be holding position near their moon." Casca's upper eyes narrowed. "They're waiting for us to come to them. Analyze their position. What are they defending?" "Nothing obvious, Admiral. There are no strategic." "Wait." The tactical officer stared at his displays. "The human ships, they're gone." "What do you mean, gone?" "They'd vanished from our sensors. No energy signatures. No." A new voice cut across the command channel. "Human. Female. Resolute. Vesperi collective vessels. This is Commander Elena Reyes of Earth Defense Force. You have entered Sovereign Sol space against explicit warning. You are ordered to withdraw immediately or face the consequences of your aggression." Admiral Casca's secondary arms flared in anger. "This is Admiral Casca of the Cerulean Fleet. Your primitive world has no claim to this system. Surrender now and your people will be permitted to exist under collective oversight. Resist, and we will reduce your civilization to ash." There was a pause then. "We chose to warn you once. We will not do so again." Suddenly, alarms blared across the Vesperi command ship. "Multiple contacts," shouted the sensor officer. "Earth vessels appearing throughout our formation." The human dreadnoughts had utilized their nexus drives to materialize directly among the Vesperi fleet, a tactic that should have been impossible. Conventional physics dictated that objects couldn't simply appear in occupied space, but the humans weren't using conventional physics. The dreadnoughts opened fire simultaneously, their main weapons unleashing streams of accelerated exotic particles that bypassed the Vesperi shields completely. The particles weren't designed to destroy through kinetic impact or energy release, but by temporarily altering the strong nuclear force within the target matter, causing atomic nuclei to become unstable. Vesperi ships began to break apart at the molecular level, their hulls crumbling like sand castles in the tide. Admiral Casca watched in horror as a third of her fleet disintegrated in the opening salvo. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Return fire with all weapons. The Vesperi ships that survived the initial assault launched a desperate counterattack, filling space with energy beams and plasma torpedoes. Some found their marks, impacting the human dreadnoughts with enough force to vaporize mountains. But the damage was minimal. The dreadnoughts' hulls, composed of exotic matter held in quantum coherence, absorbed the energy and redistributed it through their systems. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Alvarez felt the ship shudder as multiple Vesperi weapons found their target. "Damage report. Hull integrity at 92%, came the calm reply. "Energy absorption systems functioning within parameters. We're channeling the excess into the main weapons array. Target their flagship," Alvarez ordered. "Prepare to execute Maneuver Orpheus." The Defiance vanished, reappearing seconds later directly above the massive Vesperi command ship. At this range, even the exotic hull of the indomitable Purpose couldn't withstand the focused particle beam that lashed out from the human vessel. The beam cut deep into the Vesperi flagship, carving through deck after deck until it reached the main power core. Admiral Casca felt her ship dying around her. Emergency signals blared, gravity fluctuated wildly, and bulkheads crumpled as if made of paper. Looking up at her tactical display, she witnessed what no Vesperi military leader had ever seen: total defeat. Half her fleet was already destroyed, and the remainder were being systematically dismantled by enemies that appeared and disappeared at will, striking from impossible angles with weapons that defied understanding. "All vessels," she transmitted, her voice steady despite everything. "Implement emergency protocol Horizon. Save what you can." Throughout the remaining Vesperi fleet, crews abandoned their attack posture and initiated emergency jumps away from the Sol system. Many never managed to complete the transition before being destroyed. Others, damaged beyond proper function, misjumped into unknown regions of space. Only a handful escaped intact. The indomitable purpose, pride of the Cerulean fleet, listed dead in space, its main systems catastrophically damaged. Admiral Casca ordered the evacuation of all surviving crew, then made her way to an escape pod. As the small craft ejected from the dying Leviathan, she looked back at the blue-gray planet that had destroyed everything she believed about her civilization's supremacy. The battle for Earth lasted less than 30 minutes. In the aftermath, as human vessels secured the system and began the process of salvaging Vesperi technology, Commander Elena Reyes stood in the observation dome of the Thermopylae, gazing at the stars. Lieutenant Quan joined her, his uniform still bearing scorch marks from a minor systems overload during the battle. "We did it," he said simply. "We actually did it." Reyes nodded slowly. "This time. But the galaxy is vast, Lieutenant. The Vesperi are just one civilization among many. Some will hear of today's events and seek alliance with us. Others will see us as a threat to be eliminated. At least they'll know we're not defenseless." "No," Reyes agreed, a thin smile forming. "They'll know that humanity doesn't break. We adapt. We overcome. And we're just getting started." Throughout the solar system, the remains of the Vesperi fleet drifted like cosmic debris, a testament to humanity's unexpected rise. On 1,000 worlds across the galaxy, the news would soon spread. Earth was not the broken, primitive planet everyone believed. It was the home of a species that had transformed catastrophe into evolution, weakness into unprecedented strength. And the stars would remember.